You ever wonder who keeps the nightmares in check while you sleep? Turns out, that's me. My name is Mark. People always ask me if the pay is worth it, or if I ever get scared doing what I do. The truth is, I stopped asking questions a long time ago. What I do now is follow instructions, carefully. The kind of work I do doesn't leave much room for improvisation, and definitely not for mistakes. You can laugh all you want at the rules, but I've seen what happens when someone ignores them. This isn't just a job. It's survival. And if you're reading this, then either I'm gone or you're about to take over. If it's the latter, good luck. Just follow these rules exactly, and maybe you'll last longer than the others. Rule 1. Never use UV light after handling bodily fluids at a site. What fluoresces isn't always blood, and some things respond to being seen. Rule 2. Electronic devices must be completely powered down before entering any scene. The dead don't need batteries to make them work. Rule 3. If you hear someone calling your name from another room at a cleanup site, respond verbally but do not go to them. The voice will eventually stop. Rule 4. If you encounter mirrors or reflective surfaces covered with black cloth at a scene, do not, under any circumstances, remove the covering. If you accidentally see what's behind it, slit your own throat immediately. Trust me, it's kinder than what will happen if you don't. Garcia handed me the clipboard with our next job's details. 3-bedroom apartment in Ridgewood. Management company called it in as a tenant dispute. He made air quotes with his gloved fingers. Police report says neighbor complaints about screaming, unit abandoned for 2 weeks. Smell started yesterday. I scanned the paperwork. Supernatural classification? Level 2 probable entity involvement. You're probably wondering what a Level 2 means. It's company shorthand for something that can kill you, but likely won't end the world. Level 1 is your standard haunting or residual energy, spooky but manageable. Level 3 means evacuate the block. Level 4? Well, I've never seen one, and I hope to keep it that way. Nothing in the database matches the pattern exactly, Garcia continued. Could be a first. Great. First encounters were always the messiest, both literally and bureaucratically. The company likes its paperwork pristine, even when the scenes aren't. Who else is on this? I asked, loading supplies into the unmarked van. Just you, me, and Lena. Garcia nodded toward our newest team member, who was checking equipment by the loading dock. 6 weeks on the job, fresh-faced, still had that look in her eyes like she was special, like she'd seen scary movies and thought she understood what waited for us out there. She ready for a Level 2? I asked. Garcia shrugged. She hasn't broken a rule yet. Doesn't mean she's ready. The job was in one of those pre-war buildings with a doorman who'd seen too much to care. He barely glanced at our fake health inspector badges before waving us toward the service elevator. We rode up in silence, the weight of our gear nothing compared to what we were about to face. The smell hit us before we even opened the door, not the usual decomp stench that civilians think is bad. This was something else, something that smelled like burnt copper and rotten eggs, with an underlying sweetness that made my back teeth ache. "Masks on," I ordered, pulling mine up. It wouldn't help much, but the filters were treated with compounds that blocked certain frequencies of supernatural residue. The company spent millions developing them after we lost an entire team to airborne contamination in 2018. Garcia picked the lock, no use advertising our presence with management keys, and we slipped inside, closing the door behind us. Standard procedure: secure the scene, assess contamination, classify the entity, and then clean. Leave no trace of what really happened. Make it look like anything but what it actually was. The apartment was dark, curtains drawn. Lena reached for the light switch. "Stop!" I snapped. "Rule 2! She froze, hand inches from the switch. "But the electricity is still connected," I finished for her, "which means anything in here that needs power has access to it." We go dark first. I pulled out the electrical kill switch, a company special that temporarily disables all power in a contained area. 3 clicks, and we heard the faint hum of the refrigerator die. Only then did I nod to Garcia, who flipped on our battery-powered work lights. The living room looked normal at first glance. Furniture in place, no signs of struggle. But as the beam of light swept across the room, I noticed the ceiling. Dark stains formed perfect concentric circles above the couch, like someone had drawn them with a compass using blood instead of ink. "What the fuck is that?" Lena whispered. "That," Garcia said, pointing his light at similar patterns on the walls, "is why we're here and not regular crime scene cleaners." We moved methodically through the apartment, documenting everything. Kitchen was clean. Too clean. Not a dish in the sink, not a crumb on the counter. The bathroom was worse. The tub filled with a thick black substance that wasn't quite liquid, wasn't quite solid. It didn't slosh when I tapped the side of the tub. It rippled, like muscle. "Mark, come see this." Garcia's voice came from the master bedroom. The bedroom door was covered in scratches, not from the outside in, but from the inside out, like someone was desperate to get out. Garcia stood in the doorway, light pointed at the far wall where a full-length mirror hung, covered with what looked like a black bedsheet. "Covered mirror," I noted, pulling out my tablet to document it. "Multiple covered mirrors," Garcia corrected, sweeping his light around. Every reflective surface, the TV screen, the windows, even picture frames, was covered with black cloth, precisely cut to size. "Rule 4, I said, more for Lena's benefit than anything else. "What's behind them?" she asked. "If we're lucky, we'll never find out," I answered, turning away to check the closet. The smell was stronger here. The closet door was ajar, and when I pulled it open, I found nothing but empty hangers, except for a small wooden box on the floor, ornately carved with symbols I recognized from previous jobs, binding sigils meant to contain something. The box was open. Hell yes, it was. Whatever had been inside was long gone. "Garcia, we've got an empty vessel," I called out. "Shit," he muttered, coming over to look. "That explains a lot." "Explains what?" Lena asked. Garcia pointed to a small journal on the nightstand that I hadn't noticed. "Owner's name is Michael Brenner, 42, lived alone after a divorce 3 years ago. According to this, he bought an antique puzzle box from an estate sale in April." "Let me guess," I said. "He opened it." "Oh, hell yes, he opened it. He documented it. Listen to this entry. The box contained nothing but a small mirror shard. When I looked into it, I saw myself, but something was off with my reflection. It smiled when I wasn't smiling. I've been having dreams since then. Dreams where I'm watching myself sleep from the corner of the room." I exhaled slowly. "We're dealing with a doppelganger." "A what?" Lena asked. "Entity that replaces its victims," Garcia explained. "Creates a perfect copy, except it's not quite human." "Where's the body then?" she asked. I gestured at the bathroom. "That black stuff in the tub? That's probably all that's left of Brenner." The color drained from Lena's face. I didn't blame her. Nobody forgets their first doppelganger case. "So where's the copy?" she whispered. "That's the million-dollar question," I said. "Doppelgangers don't usually leave their hunting grounds unless—" A sharp noise from the kitchen cut me off, the sound of glass breaking. We froze, lights pointed at the bedroom door. Protocol for unexpected presence was clear. Identify, contain, eliminate if hostile. I pulled my company-issued sidearm from its holster, loaded with specially treated rounds that worked on things bullets shouldn't work on. "Mark," a voice called from the kitchen. My voice. "Mark, can you come help me? I've cut myself." Lena's eyes widened. She opened her mouth to speak, but I held up a finger to my lips. "I'm a bit busy," I called back, keeping my voice steady. Give me a minute. Rule 3. Respond verbally, but don't go to them. Mark, please, it's really bad. I'm bleeding a lot. My own voice, pleading with me from the kitchen we'd just cleared minutes ago. Garcia positioned himself by the bedroom door, gun drawn. I nodded to him, then whispered to Lena, "Stay here. Don't move, don't make a sound." "But it knows you're here," she whispered back. "It knows something's here," I corrected. Doppelgangers are sensory hunters. They detect presence, then use familiar voices to lure prey. It doesn't know who or what we are yet. I moved toward the door, signaling to Garcia. Years of working together meant we barely needed words. He'd guard Lena and the exit. I'd assess the threat. The voice called again, this time from the living room. "Mark? Where are you? I can't find you." It sounded confused, hurt, like a perfect imitation of me if I were injured and disoriented. I inched down the hallway, gun extended, light mounted on top to illuminate what lay ahead. The living room was still empty, but now there was glass on the floor, a broken picture frame. The family photo it had contained was face up, showing Brenner with who I assumed was his ex-wife. "Mark." The voice was closer now, just around the corner in the dining area. "Why won't you help me?" I steadied my breathing. Doppelgangers fed on fear as much as flesh. I rounded the corner, gun first. Nothing. The dining area was empty. "Behind you," my voice whispered, now at my ear. I spun, firing twice before I could even process what I was seeing. The bullets hit center mass, but the thing that looked like me just smiled. My face, but altered. Black eyes, a smile that stretched across its face in a way that defied anatomy. It lunged, faster than any human I'd ever seen. I ducked, but its hand caught my shoulder, fingers digging in with a grip that crushed bone. Pain shot through my arm as I felt something rupture. I fired again, point blank into its chest. This time, it stumbled back. Black liquid, the same stuff from the tub, oozed from the wound. Not blood, never blood. "Garcia," I shouted, backing up toward the hallway. "It's active." The thing cocked its head, my face contorting into an expression I'd never seen in a mirror. "Garcia?" it said, voice shifting mid-word from mine to Garcia's. "Is that who's with you?" Fuck. I'd just given it another voice to use. It smiled again, teeth gleaming wetly in the light. "Let's go see Garcia," it said in my colleague's perfect voice. I raised my gun again, but it was already moving, darting past me toward the bedroom where I'd left the others. I fired, catching it in the back. More black ooze, but it didn't slow down. I chased after it, heart pounding. As I reached the hallway, I heard Lena scream. Then gunshots. 1, 2, 3 rapid bursts from Garcia's weapon. When I got to the bedroom doorway, Garcia was on the floor, clutching his throat. Blood, real human blood, pulsed between his fingers. Lena stood backed against the wall, gun trembling in her hands. The doppelganger was nowhere to be seen. "It went for him first," Lena gasped. It knew he was the threat. I knelt beside Garcia, pressing my hand over his to staunch the bleeding. The cut was deep, but had missed the carotid by millimeters. He'd live if we got him help soon. "The mirror," he choked out. "It went into the mirror." I looked up at the full-length mirror, still covered with its black cloth. But now the cloth moved subtly, as if something behind it was breathing. "We need to contain it," I said to Lena. "Call for backup and a medical evac for Garcia. Tell them it's a doppelganger breach." She fumbled for her radio, hands shaking as she called it in. "What? What about Rule 4? She asked. "If it's behind the cloth." "We don't look," I said firmly, applying pressure to Garcia's wound. "We maintain the seal and wait for the containment team." 20 minutes later, Garcia was being loaded into an ambulance, not a regular one, but but the company's special medical unit that knew how to treat wounds that weren't entirely physical. The containment team had arrived in full hazmat gear, using tools I wasn't even cleared to know about to secure the mirror without ever exposing it. Lena stood beside me as we watched them work, still shaken, but holding it together better than most rookies would have. "You did good," I told her. "You kept your head." "I nearly shot you when you came through that door," she admitted, "after seeing that thing wear your face." "That's why we work in teams," I said, "and why we follow the rules." She was quiet for a moment, then asked, "What happens to Brenner?" "To what's left of him." Standard cover story. Murder, suicide, or accidental death, depending on what the cleanup team decides will draw least attention. "And what about the families? Do they ever know what really happened?" I thought about all the cases I'd worked, all the lies we'd told grieving relatives, the official stories that hid the truth of what lurked in the shadows of normal life. "No," I said finally. "That's not part of our job. We clean, we contain, we cover up. The truth stays with us and the company." She frowned. "Doesn't seem right." "The work we do isn't about right. It's about keeping everyone else safe in their ignorance." I handed her the keys to the van. "Come on, paperwork doesn't file itself, and I could use a drink. First round's on me." As we walked away from the apartment building, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the van's side mirror. For just a second, so brief I almost convinced myself I imagined it. I saw myself smiling back, black eyes gleaming, mouthing 4 words I couldn't unhear. "I'll see you soon." "That's a 3rd strike for Simmons," Garcia said, as we watched the medical team load his body into the specialized containment unit. Stupid rookie broke Rule 1. 2 weeks had passed since the doppelganger incident. Garcia's throat was still bandaged, but he'd been cleared for light duty, which apparently included identifying the remains of our newest team member. Ex-team member now. I glanced at Lena, who stood a few feet away, face carefully blank as she observed the proceedings. This was her 2nd cleanup in 2 weeks. Most rookies didn't see this much action in their first 6 months. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded without looking at me. "Just wondering if they'll tell his family what really happened." "They never do," Garcia answered before I could. "Company policy. His parents will get some story about an industrial accident. Closed casket, of course." The scene around us was controlled chaos. Tactical teams securing the perimeter, medical unit handling Simmons's remains, cleanup crew beginning the process of erasing all evidence of what had happened here. Standard protocol for a Level 2 containment breach. Director Haynes approached, tablet in hand. "Initial report?" I gestured toward the bathroom. Simmons decided to check for residual biocontamination using a UV light. Ignored direct orders not to handle any substances without proper gear. "And the substances responded," Haynes concluded, making a note on her tablet. Responded was putting it mildly. When Simmons had switched on that UV light, the apparently harmless bodily fluids we'd been cleaning up had suddenly animated, flowing together like they were being magnetically attracted before surging up his arm. By the time we'd reached him, the substance had already burrowed through his hazmat suit and was forcing itself into his mouth, nose, and eyes. Garcia had reacted first, using the emergency incinerator, essentially a military-grade flamethrower disguised as industrial cleaning equipment. It had stopped the immediate threat, but too late for Simmons. "The family in the house?" Haynes asked. "Already processed and relocated," Garcia replied. "Standard memory modification protocol. As far as they know, there was a carbon monoxide leak that forced evacuation. They'll be cleared to return once we're done." Haynes nodded, satisfied. "Good. I'm assigning the 3 of you to another case. Wheels up in 3 hours." We all stared at her. "Ma'am," I said carefully, "protocol dictates a 48-hour cooling-off period after losing team personnel." "Protocol is a luxury we can't afford right now," she replied. We've got a situation developing in Lakeside that matches the profile of a Class 3 biomorphic entity, possibly related to what killed Simmons. That got our attention. Class 3 meant serious containment issues, potentially an entire town at risk, and if it was similar to what we just faced. Details? Garcia asked. You'll be fully briefed on the flight. Haynes handed me a clearance tablet. Kelly, you're team lead on this one. Chen is second. Rodriguez, your support only. No direct engagement given your medical status. Garcia looked like he wanted to argue but thought better of it. He'd been with the company long enough to know when to push back and when to shut up. 3 hours, Haynes repeated, walking away. Don't be late. Lakeside, Minnesota was exactly what it sounded like, a small town built around the shores of a picturesque lake. Population 4,278 according to the welcome sign, though the briefing material suggested the current count might be significantly lower. 9 confirmed missing in the past week, I said, reviewing the file as our SUV wound through pine-covered hills toward the town. All disappeared after swimming in the lake. Local authorities suspect drownings, but no bodies recovered. What makes this our kind of case? Lena asked from the passenger seat. Garcia was in the back, checking our equipment. 2 reasons, I replied. First, a maintenance worker at the water treatment plant reported seeing something moving in the pipes that didn't look like any animal he recognized. Second, a soil sample from the lakeshore showed traces of an unidentified biological compound with an unusual fluorescent signature. Garcia leaned forward. Like what got Simmons? Similar enough that the company flagged it. The working theory is, we're dealing with some kind of water-based entity that can transfer itself through bodily fluids, sweat, saliva, blood. And it responds to UV light, Lena added. Hence Rule 1. I nodded. Exactly. This thing might normally be dormant or invisible, but UV exposure triggers it somehow. So what's the plan? Garcia asked. We're posing as CDC officials investigating a possible waterborne pathogen. That gives us access to the treatment plant, lake testing sites, and any victims' homes. We collect samples, identify the organism's signature, then figure out how to neutralize it. It sounded simple. It never was. Lakeside seemed eerily quiet as we drove through the downtown area. A few shops were open, but foot traffic was minimal. The public beach was completely empty, cordoned off with police tape. Our first stop was the sheriff's department, where a tired-looking deputy named Collins briefed us on the situation. Started about 10 days ago, he explained, showing us a map with red pins marking disappearance locations. First was Tyler Jenkins, 16, didn't come home after swimming with friends. Then Maria Gonzalez, 42, went for her morning lake swim and never returned. After that, it snowballed. Any bodies recovered? I asked, maintaining our CDC cover. Collins shook his head. Not a single one. We've dragged the lake twice, had divers check every underwater cave and crevice. Nothing. What about the water treatment worker who reported seeing something in the pipes? Lena inquired. Stan Jenkins, Tyler's father actually, works maintenance at the plant. Collins frowned. He's not exactly reliable right now. Grief has him seeing things, convinced whatever took his son is in the water system. We'd like to speak with him, I said. Good luck. He hasn't shown up for work in 3 days. His wife says he's holed up in their basement, refuses to use any running water, won't even flush the toilet. That didn't sound like mere grief to me. That sounded like someone who knew exactly what he was dealing with. Can you give us his address? The Jenkins house was a modest 2-story in a quiet neighborhood near the lake. The yard needed mowing, and newspapers had piled up on the porch. No one answered when we knocked. Around back, Garcia suggested, pointing to a cellar entrance at the side of the house. We approached cautiously. Protocol for civilian contact in potential contamination zones was clear. Identify, assess exposure level, contain if necessary. I hoped we weren't too late. I knocked on the cellar door. "Mr. Jenkins, CDC. We need to speak with you about what you saw at the treatment plant." No response. I tried the handle. Locked. "Should we come back with the sheriff?" Lena asked. I was about to agree when I noticed something seeping from under the door. Not water. Something darker, with a faint bluish glow in the afternoon shadows. "Breach," I said quietly, stepping back. "Get the containment kit from the car." Garcia moved quickly, returning with a specialized case containing our real equipment, not the water testing gear we'd shown the sheriff, but the tools designed for supernatural entity containment. I pulled out the UV filter glasses and put them on. Through the specialized lenses, the substance seeping from under the door was clearly visible, a viscous fluid that seemed to pulse with its own rhythm. "Same as what got Simmons," I confirmed, putting on the protective gloves from the kit. "Level 3 containment protocol. No direct contact, no UV exposure." We geared up quickly, thin but highly effective containment suits designed to look like standard hazmat gear to civilians. The company spent millions developing materials that could block supernatural energy signatures while remaining lightweight and practical for field operations. "Ready?" I asked, holding the specialized breaching tool. Garcia and Lena nodded, both armed with containment sprayers, devices that looked like fire extinguishers but dispensed a specialized compound designed to neutralize biomorphic entities by solidifying them into inert matter. I broke the lock with one quick motion, and we entered the cellar. The smell hit us first, not decomposition, but something chemical, like ozone mixed with algae. The cellar was dark except for a work light in the far corner, illuminating a makeshift lab setup. Containers of water samples lined shelves on one wall. Notes and photographs were pinned to another, connected by red string in classic conspiracy theory fashion. And in the center of it all, slumped over a desk, was Stan Jenkins. "Movement check," I ordered. We stood still, scanning the room for any sign of the entity. Nothing obvious, but the floor was damp in places, with the same faint bluish sheen we'd seen outside. "Mr. Jenkins?" I called out, approaching slowly. No response. As I got closer, I could see he wasn't moving, not even breathing. "We've got a body," I reported, shining my light, carefully filtered to remove UV frequencies, on Jenkins. He appeared to have been dead for at least 24 hours. No obvious cause, no signs of struggle. Just a man who'd apparently fallen asleep at his desk and never woken up. Except for one detail. His eyes were open, and they were entirely black, with that same faint blue luminescence swirling within them. "Garcia, document. Lena, check his notes. I'll secure the body." I reached for the containment bag in my kit. Lena moved to the wall of papers and photographs. "He was tracking something," she reported. "Started with the treatment plant, then followed it through the water system to the lake." I carefully checked Jenkins for any external wounds or entry points. Nothing visible. Whatever had killed him had found another way in. "Look at this," Lena said, holding up a photograph. "He captured something in the water." The image showed the lake surface at night, apparently taken with some kind of specialized camera. Just below the surface, a faint shape was visible, not quite solid, not quite liquid, with tendrils extending outward in all directions. "There's more," she continued, flipping through a notebook. "He figured out it's attracted to bodily fluids, specifically sweat and tears. That's how it finds victims. They go swimming, their sweat mingles with the lake water, and it follows them home through their own skin." "Then what?" Garcia asked, photographing Jenkins' body from multiple angles. Lena turned a page in the notebook. "It waits until they shower or bathe, then emerges from the water and... Jesus!" "What?" She held up the notebook, showing a series of crude drawings. A human figure in a shower, a tendril emerging from the shower head, the tendril touching the person's face, entering through the eyes, nose, mouth. The person changing, their insides becoming blue and luminescent before they walked back into the water, completely submerged, and disappeared. It's not killing them, I realized. It's converting them. Into what? Garcia asked. Before Lena could answer, a sound came from elsewhere in the cellar. A wet, sliding noise. We all turned toward it, containment sprayers ready. In the far corner, previously hidden in shadow, was a small bathroom. The door was ajar, and water was seeping from underneath it. Movement, I whispered, gesturing toward the bathroom. We approached in formation, me in front, Garcia and Lena covering with the sprayers. Standard breach procedure. I pushed the door open slowly with my foot. The bathroom was small, just a toilet, sink, and stand-up shower. The shower curtain was drawn closed, water pooled on the floor, all of it with that faint blue glow. "Jenkins," Garcia said quietly, pointing to the shower. I nodded. Whatever had happened to the maintenance worker, the aftermath was likely behind that curtain. I reached out and pulled it back in one quick motion. Mrs. Jenkins stood in the shower stall, fully clothed and soaking wet. Her eyes were completely black with swirling blue luminescence, identical to her husband's. She didn't move, didn't breathe, just stared at us with those inhuman eyes. "Ma'am?" I said cautiously. "CDC, we need you to step out of the shower slowly." She remained motionless for a moment, then opened her mouth. No words came out, just water, gallons of it, pouring from her mouth in an impossible stream. The water spread across the bathroom floor, moving against gravity, flowing uphill toward us. "Containment!" I shouted, backing up as Garcia and Lena opened fire with the sprayers. The specialized compound hit the advancing water, and the woman simultaneously, instantly solidifying into a white, chalk-like substance that stopped the flow. Mrs. Jenkins remained standing, now partially encased in the hardened material, still staring at us with those glowing eyes. "Full coverage," I ordered. They continued spraying until she was completely encased, a white statue in a human shape. We backed out of the bathroom, only to find more water seeping into the cellar from every direction, through cracks in the walls, from pipes overhead, even up through the floor. "It's in the groundwater," Lena realized. "The whole house is compromised." "We need to contain and evacuate," I decided. "Garcia, call for backup. Lena, help me secure Jenkins' research. We need to know everything he discovered about this thing." As Garcia reached for his radio, Mrs. Jenkins suddenly burst from the bathroom, her solidified shell cracking apart. She moved with impossible speed, water streaming from her body in every direction. I pushed Lena toward the cellar door. "Go! Get the research out!" She grabbed the notebook and photographs while I turned to face Mrs. Jenkins. Standard neutralization techniques clearly weren't working. Time for more direct measures. From my belt, I pulled out a small silver cylinder, a last resort device we called the dehydrator. It created a localized field that extracted all moisture from organic matter within a 10-foot radius. Messy and permanently fatal to all living things caught in the field, which is why we used it only when absolutely necessary. "Garcia, clear the room!" I shouted, activating the device. He scrambled toward the exit as Mrs. Jenkins lunged at me. I dodged sideways and threw the cylinder at her feet. It activated with a high-pitched whine, blue light emanating from seams in the metal. Mrs. Jenkins froze, her water-infused body suddenly caught in the field. The effect was immediate and grotesque. Water literally boiling out of her flesh, steam rising from her clothes, her skin shrinking against her bones as all moisture was forcibly extracted. I ran for the door as the field expanded. The dehydrator wouldn't discriminate between hostile entities and me. Just as I reached the threshold, something caught my ankle, a tendril of water that had somehow resisted the field. It yanked hard, pulling me back as I fell. "Kelly!" Garcia grabbed my wrist, but the tendril was stronger, dragging me toward the center of the room, where Mrs. Jenkins was still desiccating in the dehydrator's field. The tendril began moving up my leg, seeking entry, any opening in my suit. I could feel it probing, searching for a way in. Garcia drew his sidearm, a last resort weapon loaded with specialized ammunition. He aimed not at the tendril, but at the dehydrator itself. "Cover your face," he shouted, then fired. The bullet hit the cylinder dead center. The dehydrator wasn't designed to be bulletproof. It was a containment device, not a weapon. The impact ruptured its core, instantly amplifying the field to maximum strength. The blast of energy that followed was like nothing I'd ever experienced, a wave of pure desiccation that turned every drop of moisture in the room to vapor in a split second. The tendril gripping my leg withered instantly. Mrs. Jenkins' body collapsed into dust. The very air seemed to crackle with static electricity, as all humidity was stripped away. I scrambled backward, Garcia pulling me clear of the field just before the dehydrator's power cell overloaded and the device imploded, leaving behind a perfect sphere of absolute dryness about 15 feet in diameter. "That was too close," I gasped, checking my suit for breaches. "You crazy bastard. You could have killed us both." Garcia shrugged, holstering his weapon. "Calculated risk. Better than watching that thing liquefy your insides." We stumbled out of the cellar to find Lena already on the radio with headquarters, rapidly relaying information from Jenkins' research. The company's response was immediate and overwhelming. Within an hour, a full containment team had established a perimeter around the lake, and specialized vehicles were arriving to begin treating the water supply. Director Haynes arrived personally to oversee the operation, a rare occurrence that underscored the severity of the situation. "Initial assessment?" she asked as we watched the containment team setting up equipment at the lake shore. "Aquatic biomorphic entity with molecular restructuring capabilities," I reported. "Jenkins' research suggests it's been dormant in the lake for decades, possibly centuries. Recent drought conditions and increased water usage concentrated its presence in the system to the point where it became active." "And the missing persons?" "Converted, not killed," Lena explained, showing Haynes the notebook. "The entity essentially rewrites their cellular structure, turning them into extensions of itself. They return to the water and become part of it." "Can they be recovered? Restored?" Haynes asked. I shook my head. "Based on what we saw with Mrs. Jenkins, I don't think so. The conversion appears complete and irreversible." Haynes nodded, making notes on her tablet. "Containment plan?" "Jenkins was working on a chemical compound that disrupts the entity's molecular cohesion," Lena said. "With the company's resources, we can refine it and deploy at scale. Treat the entire water system, then the lake itself." "And the converted victims?" "They'll be neutralized along with the primary entity," I said grimly. "There's no separating them at this point." Haynes was silent for a moment, calculating the cost, both financial and human. 9 lives already lost, possibly more if we'd missed any cases. An entire town's water supply contaminated, and one of our own agents nearly added to the tally. "Make it happen," she finally ordered. "Full containment, full neutralization. I want this thing gone by sunrise." As she walked away, Garcia, Lena, and I remained staring out at the seemingly peaceful lake, knowing what lurked beneath its surface. "You know what bugs me?" Garcia said after a while. "Jenkins figured this out on his own. No training, no specialized equipment, just a desperate father trying to understand what happened to his son. And it got him killed," I reminded him. "Yeah, but he was right. He recognized the threat, documented it, even started developing a neutralization method. If we'd gotten here sooner." "Don't go down that road," I advised. "This job isn't about saving everyone. It's about containing the damage and preventing it from spreading." "Speaking of containing damage," Lena interjected, "how do we explain 9 missing persons who are never coming back?" I watched as technicians in specialized gear began setting up treatment stations around the lake perimeter. Same way we always do: tragic accident, recovery efforts unsuccessful, bodies presumed lost. "And Simmons?" she asked quietly. Industrial accident, I replied. Closed casket, like Garcia said. We stood in silence, watching the containment operation unfold with practiced efficiency. This wasn't our first cleanup, and it wouldn't be our last. The supernatural doesn't care about human lives or human rules. It simply exists, and occasionally, it hungers. That's why we exist too. To clean up the messes, hide the evidence, maintain the comfortable illusion that the world works according to rational, scientific principles. To follow the rules, so others don't have to know they exist. As night fell over Lakeside, the lake water began to glow faintly blue wherever the treatment chemicals touched it, the entity's luminescence flaring as it died. By morning, the water would be clear again. The town would mourn its losses, create memorials, eventually move on. The company would monitor the situation for years to ensure no trace remained. And we would go on to the next job, the next cleanup, the next set of rules to follow. Because some things don't stay dead unless you know exactly how to kill them. And some deaths have to be covered up to keep everyone else alive.